Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about sustainable fat loss, or should I say why sustainable fat loss is a con and something that you do not want to be doing. I did want to get this video out earlier in the week, but life threw a few curveballs, which is actually why I'm sitting in this chair, because this chair has the best lumbar support possible and it really helps to ease because I've somehow managed to get a slip disc. So there's been a few curveballs, but anyway, we're here. Before we get into things, if you are not already on the priority list for Define, you do not have long, okay? So Define is my brand new 8-week group coaching program that you can get an early bird price for only £99 for the full 8 weeks, which is literally remarkable for everything that you are going to be receiving, the support, the results that you're going to get as long as you put in the work. That's always a big thing that you need to make sure that you're doing. But you can only get it for the early bird price if you are on the priority list, okay? So I'm going to add the link in the description. You do not have long because spaces go live on Friday the 1st of May at 9 a.m. So I'll send you over all of the information once you click on that link. Now let's get into it. So I'm actually going to call old Chrissy out here because when I first started the journey, I used to believe that fat loss should be sustainable. I used to think that you don't have to be overly restrictive. I used to think that you don't need to be on super low calories, and that's just not true, okay? And obviously I'm much wiser now. So I'm actually going to share this little video that I found on my phone the other day, which actually makes me cringe because apparently my voice has completely changed. For the better, I don't know, but I guess that's what moving to Liverpool does. But my points in there, obviously, about the shakes and all of that is still pretty relevant, right? But when it comes to actual sustainable fat loss, that is not something that you want. Fat loss should not be sustainable. Anyway, let's cringe a little bit and I'll show you the video. A sustainable diet shouldn't include meal replacements, detox tea, fat burning pills, over restriction, belief that the carbs are bad for you, or even that foods are sins.
I make myself cringe.
But anyway, I'll always admit if I'm ever wrong about something, right? Obviously, I'm a much wiser now. Obviously, I've got a lot more experience. So I know that sustainable fat loss isn't a thing. I know that some women need to diet on lower calories, right? And I've done this previously myself. Sometimes it is needed. That's not to say that you in particular, have to diet on really low calories. It's all relevant to each individual, okay? And the circumstances, the timeline, your body weight, how tall you are, what you do day to day, okay? Some women have to diet on lower calories and that's just the way it is. It's not fun, it's not fair, but that's just it, okay? But obviously today we're talking about sustainable fat loss, so I'll try not digress. Now, the reason why you want sustainable fat loss is because you want to be able to stick with the diet and you still want to have that flexibility. But let me tell you something. That is dragging out the process for longer than what it needs to be. Dieting isn't sustainable. If you're trying to do it in a sustainable way, you're literally going to spend so long dieting, right? Which might be the position that you're in. You're constantly in and out of dieting, which is not a place where you want to be. That's not where you build the physique of your dreams, okay? Majority of women, well, most women, probably if you're a single woman, the physique that they want is not achieved through simply just dieting, okay? It's achieved afterwards when you're having more food, you've got more energy, you're able to push training more. Like building muscle is the thing that improves your physique. Fat loss is the first stage and it is a phase that needs to be done. So that's why you don't want to drag it out longer than what it needs to be. A lot of women I speak to, they're worried about increasing their calories because, what happens if I put on more body fat? Well, that's not going to happen if you bring your calories to where your maintenance calories are, okay? But the problem is the calories that you think you are having is probably not the amount that you're actually having, right? Because when you look at accuracy of tracking, majority of people do not track accurately, okay? And that's just a fact. There's actually been studies on this, even from dietitians, not even tracking accurately, okay? You know, we're human, right? We're not robots. We do make mistakes, especially when you're at the start of the journey. Tracking, it takes some time to get used to, right? So we always want to be completely brutally honest with ourselves as well, okay? Because actually, if you're sticking to something Monday to Friday, but actually you feel like you deserve a treat at the weekend, or that doesn't count, or, one takeaway will be fine, those are places where you're going to be going wrong, right? Because it all adds up. It really, really does. And the deficit calories for, especially if you're a small female, deficit calories and maintenance calories aren't going to be that far away. So you very easily think that you're dieting, but actually you're not. And the reality is, if nothing's changing, you are not dieting. Now, a lot of people out there and a lot of coaches out there will say,
scale weight is irrelevant.
And again, that's not true. Scale weight is relevant. Now, it's not linear and it will fluctuate, but if you are dieting, the trend over time will always go down. If you are in a fat loss phase and your goal is to drop body fat, the scales will come down, and it's not going to come down every single day, right? And this is where women's heads fall off. See a spike in the scales, oh, nothing's working. And then they throw the toys out of the pram and then go and, have a takeaway or whatever it might be, right? But actually, you just need to keep doing what you're doing, because if you're doing the work, the results will show. And yes, you might not see the drop every single week, but over time, if you are dieting, you will see the scales move, okay? There's no two ways about that. What you want to be thinking about here is you do not want to be consuming as little calories as possible forever, okay? Majority of women stay in this middle ground where they just feel like they can't eat things and, that they have to try and stick to super low calories. It's like, no, yeah? The calories that you finish on in a diet, not the calories that you want to be consuming for the rest of your life. If you do fat loss right and you get yourself into a lean position, even if your calories are really low, you are going to be able to get your calories into a really good position as long as you come out of the fat loss the right way, okay? And that's something that I'll talk about on another YouTube video. I won't talk about it today because otherwise this could be quite long, okay? But you don't want to be panicking and worrying about the calories that you're going to be consuming after the diet, because actually, if you do the dieting phase right, you're not going to need to worry about that. But you need to have a roadmap, right? You need to know what phase you're in. You need to know what you're doing after the diet. Majority of women do not think about life after fat loss, which is why you get stuck in this middle ground of constantly dieting and feeling like you have to be on super low calories all the time. But the reality is, that's not the way it needs to be. It really, really isn't. So instead of thinking fat loss should be sustainable and you're doing this for a really long period of time, you're right there, Oscar. You want to know exactly what you're doing, the time frame, and what to do after dieting, right? That's going to be important. So as an example, right, if you want to lose 6 kilos, and by the way, majority of people have more to lose than what you actually think, but we'll go off 6 kilos. You can drop 6 kilos in 12 weeks. Yeah, fine, perfect. You could actually do it in less time, but again, this is dependent on how aggressive you want to go, okay? There is no wrong or right way, whether you go more aggressive, less aggressive, but you want to be seeing progress, because if you're not seeing progress and you're dragging it out, well, that's when you end up in a position where you don't get anywhere, okay? But let's say you've got a 12-week plan to pull off 6 kilos. You have to be willing to do what's required to pull off that 6 kilos in those 12 weeks. Now, if you've got a coach, they'll be able to tell you what you're going to need to do in that time in order to be able to do that. So then you can make sure that your actions are always aligning with that. Now, if you're in a position where you're just going, oh, I'm just going to lose 6 kilos, but you've got no time frame, well, how long is it going to take you? 20 weeks? You come to make a decision, you get offered something and you go, oh, yeah, that doesn't matter. Well, you're just dragging it out, right? You have to get good at saying no to things. You have to understand there is going to be a level of restriction. But actually, if you can get in and out of it quicker, you are going to be able to be in a position where you can have more flexibility. The problem is with sustainable fat loss is you try and achieve fat loss whilst having all of the flexibility that you want. And that's why it doesn't work, okay? You have to understand there's going to be restriction. You're going to have to say no to things. It's not always going to be easy. You might have to diet on less calories. You might have to move your body a bit more. But actually, for a period of time, you are capable of doing that. Now, if I was to say you've got to be on low calories, you've got to move your body more, and you have to do this for, well, it could be 2 months, could be 3 months, or it might even be a year, then of course your head's going to fall off and be like, what? I can't do that long term, right? But it's not a long term thing. That's why you want to get in and out of it and actually stop dragging things out, okay? So essentially, that is why sustainable fat loss is a con, because that is the thing that is keeping you stuck in the same position. That is why you're not getting to the place where you want to get to, because you need to have a plan. You need to know what is expected of you, how much progress you should be driving, and you need to have a plan for after fat loss, okay? The dogs are going crazy and I do not know why. So, on the next YouTube, I will be going through coming out of a fat loss phase. So, if you're interested in that, make sure you catch up on it. Don't forget, you do not have long to get on the priority list, so make sure you click the link in the description. And if you have any questions, you can fire them over. I'll pop my Instagram below as well. Now, you know what to do by this point. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you all soon.